Shield, representing stock cars, the 7-time and defending Winston Cup champion, Dale Earnhardt. Stock cars, new rising star, Jeff Gordon, the winner of the Brickyard 400. From road racing, the great long-distance master, Hurley Haywood. The 1990 Trans Am and 3-time IMSA champion road racer, Tom Kendall. 14-time World of Outlaws champion, the greatest sprint car driver ever, Steve Kinsey. 4-time ASA champion and defending IROC champion, Mark Martin. 2-time and defending IMSA GTS champion, New Zealand's Steve Millen. 2-time IMSA and twice Trans Am champion, road racer Scott Pruitt. The champion of IROC 16, representing NASCAR stock cars, Ricky Rudd. An IROC rookie, but USAC champion in dirt cars, midgets, sprints, and stock cars, Ken Schrader. 2-time IROC and defending 2-time IndyCar PPG Cup champion, Al Unser Jr. And the 1989 Winston Cup champion and champion of IROC 15, Rusty Wallace. 12 of the finest, now ready to pit their skills against one another in the International Race of Champions, the IROC. Welcome to Daytona International Speedway and round 1 of IROC 19. This is the series where the cars are equal and matched, and the winners are determined on driver skill alone. Now, there are 4 tracks in this year's IROC series, each of them a high-bank super speedway and quite a challenge. Now, points are distributed based on finishing position with the most points for the winner of the race. But perhaps more important is there are bonus points available for leading laps in each round, and that will make a world of difference. At the end of the 4 races, we crown the champion. He takes home $225,000 of the $760,000 purse. Now, each year, the IROC just seems to get better and better and better. Each winter, the IROC crews work on these Dodge Avengers to make them more and more raceable, and this year has been no exception. Let's go pit side with Jack Aruth.
Well, Paul, last year, these cars showed up at Daytona, and they didn't even have a name. This year, they're the Avenger. They're on the racetrack, and now they're in a guy's garage as well as they're a production-based automobile. Major changes under the hood, though. New heat shields for these cars, new air boxes, new heads, make the engines far more competitive. Changes in the rubber as well. For the first time, IROC cars are utilizing the exact same radial tire that the Winston Cup Brigade uses on the 2.5-mile super speedway. It should make the car extremely competitive. And when you look at the drivers strapped at the cockpit, that should be the most competitive field we have ever seen here at Daytona, Sam Posey.
Well, Jack, I'll say we have quality competition. 6 out of the 12 drivers in the race today won major championships this last year. And 2 of them are just the hottest drivers in the business. Dale Earnhardt, the defending current NASCAR champion. Al Unser Jr., the defending current IndyCar champion. You won't find any better drivers in racing today. Now, Dale Earnhardt does not have quite as good a record in IROC competition as Al Unser Jr. He's won 1 championship and 4 races to Al's 2 championships and 8 races. But when it comes to racing here at Daytona, Earnhardt has a distinct edge. He's won 2 out of the last 3 IROC races here. When these 2 men go at it, there's an awful lot of prestige on the line. Not only their own pride of accomplishment, but the prestige of the organizations that they represent. We'll have cameras in both of their cars, and we're looking forward to a titanic struggle today. Paul?
Well, and Sam, this year we have a special treat in our coverage of IROC 19. In IROC 3, this man won here at Daytona. 20 years ago, he won the Daytona 500 by nearly a full lap on the rest of the field. Benny Parsons, we do welcome you. With half of the field being represented out of Winston Cup, does that make it difficult for those guys?
It makes it difficult for 5 of them, because when you walk through the NASCAR garage here and you talk to the other drivers about Dale Earnhardt and his success, they talk about that black 3. They really feel like that Richard Childress and his crew are a huge part of Dale Earnhardt's success. Earnhardt's not in that black number 3 today. He's in a field Dodge Avenger. Let's see if they can make Earnhardt finish 6th. They're going to have trouble doing that. And one thing the NASCAR drivers are going to miss today are their spotters. Normally they have a guy that sits high above the racetrack, full view of the entire track, and he tells that driver when the driver's overtaking him, going to pass him on the outside or the inside. Under IROC rules, they cannot have radios, so they've got to sense a guy on the outside, and sometimes they can't do that.
Well, the Dodge Avengers are out and rolling on the high banks. Let's take a look at the starting field. And if you don't see your favorite here, it could be because many car owners today have big money invested in their drivers, and they are not as willing as in the past to let those drivers race outside of their disciplines. So here is the starting grid in the first row, chosen by a draw. On the pole in the orange car is NASCAR driver Ricky Rudd alongside Dale Earnhardt in the teal car. In row 2, the green machine is Al Unser Jr., the IndyCar champion. And alongside is Steve Millen, who is a rookie representing road racing. In the third row, in the lime green car, Scott Pruitt, a road racer. And the powder blue car is Rusty Wallace from NASCAR. In row 4, the dark blue car is Mark Martin from NASCAR. And in the cream car, another NASCAR veteran, Ken Schrader. In row number 5, the red car is Hurley Haywood of road racing. The yellow car, another road racer, Tom Kendall. And then in the 6th and final row, the white car, the only short track representative ever in the IROC, Steve Kinzer. And alongside in the pink car, representing the NASCAR stock cars, is Jeff Gordon. This is a look up from the last position in the field, a position that some feel may in fact have an advantage all the way through the other rows. Keep an eye on that front row. Keep an eye on the outside, Dale Earnhardt. And watch, too, Unser Jr. in the green car in the second row. He's always destined to make an early move. You're on board with Little Al. The green is out. IROC 19 is underway as Little Al moves inside of Earnhardt. Comes up and gives Rudd a little bit of a bump. Moving up toward top speed now. They really don't hit it until they come off the last turn. Al Unser Jr. tucked in behind Ricky Rudd. Scott Pruitt has moved in behind Al Unser Jr. as they come to the backside.
Dale Earnhardt is known for his great start. This time he got a very poor start. He's all the way back to the 5th spot as the cars touch down the back straightaway.
It was an amazingly slow start for an IROC race, and it shuffled the field quite considerably.
Mark Martin closing in there in 4th place. Scott Pruitt representing road racing as a Trans Am champion, though this year in the IndyCar. Looking solid in 3rd. Then Al Unser Jr. from IndyCar. Ricky Rudd is out in front as Little Al darts out to the inside.
There's Scott Pruitt with him.
Pruitt in that lime green car. Second on the street there, won this race unexpectedly in 1991. Pruitt's hot here.
Pruitt gets a little help from Earnhardt as all three darted out, and that brings Earnhardt up into 3rd place. Now they go 3 wide.
Oh, and almost making contact off the second corner. Earnhardt and Ricky Rudd.
Earnhardt comes drifting down across the front of Rudd. Now it's Pruitt moving to the inside, Earnhardt to the outside.
Pruitt going up the hill, taking Al Jr. with him. And meanwhile, on the inside comes Hurley Haywood in the red car.
Unbelievable. The road racer Haywood down on the inside gets a little help from Mark Martin, and he is competitive, having moved up from 9th place.
Our spotting report had Hurley Haywood at a sprint car race as a spectator in St. Augustine last night. Maybe he's picked up some of the enthusiasm of wheel-to-wheel competition.
They are winning the corner 3 abreast. This is from Al Unser Jr. start, looking back at Dale Earnhardt in the teal Avenger.
Earnhardt down, working the low side there. Haywood lined up behind.
This is an extraordinary drive for Haywood, who has never been a front runner in the IROCs. He's asked back year after year, but his experience in long-distance racing does not stand in well in this kind of hot competition.
Back from 2nd place, Al Unser Jr. Pruitt is the leader.
We'll see Rusty Wallace in the powder blue car back about 6th place, caught on the inside, but shuffles back up in front of Kenny Schrader.
Schrader, a rookie in IROC competition, hardly a rookie in this kind of racing. Let him in.
Now Unser Jr. goes for the lead, takes Earnhardt with him as they move around Scott Pruitt. Look at Al Unser Jr.'s car. We don't normally see the car looking that unstable here.
Meantime, Jeff Gordon, you see him in the pink car right there in the center of the screen. He is now up to 5th, and remember, he started last. He's the youngest driver in the race and the youngest driver ever to race in IROC.
Rusty Wallace out alone down low as you're on board with Jeff Gordon, who is beginning to move up through this field.
Right now, Gordon is on the outside, needs some help on the outside to get to the front.
And he's got just a guy there, Rusty Wallace, with a lot of experience. Wallace won 3 consecutive IROC races a couple of years ago en route to the championship.
So in the IROC, it's Al Unser Jr. out in front of Dale Earnhardt. And the battle of IROC 19 is underway. Where Al Unser Jr. is the leader. He has led in the last 6 IROC races here at Daytona. But Dale Earnhardt has been down on the inside trying to contest that. Scott Pruitt closing in behind Little Al. These two IndyCar drivers, we get a bump, seem to be working together and recognize that if they're going to take on a 6-car NASCAR contingent, they're going to have to work together.
Earnhardt tried to go on the inside going in turn 3. It did not work for him. He lost the draft, and he's fallen back to mid-pack.
Benny, talking to the drivers, they say these cars are more sensitive to drive than they were last year. There are only 3 men in the race that are rookies. That's Millen, Schrader, and Gordon. The rest of them have that experience from last year, but say they're just a little harder to drive. They're faster, too.
They are much faster. Here we go once again. Rudd and Rusty Wallace on the bottom of the racetrack trying to get to the front. This is inside Jeff Gordon's car.
Both Rudd and Wallace work down inside Schrader, but Wallace gets caught out as Gordon closes up on Schrader.
Kenny Schrader there, you see him right ahead of Gordon, is driving a terrific race in that cream-colored car. Remember, he's a rookie. He was just tickled to death to be invited to race the IROC cars, and he's doing really well.
You know, in the IROC, they never actually practice in the cars they race. They get very few practice laps, and Jack Arute, this time, Al Unser fewer than most.
Well, Al Unser Jr. is the driver in competition with the least number of practice laps. You see, he didn't arrive at the Speedway until 8 a.m. this morning. They were able to get him about 5 laps in this black practice car. Al arrived figuring that the cars hadn't changed at all since 1994. When he found out, when he got in the car, is that they had changed a little bit. So he may be playing with a little bit of a disadvantage as he's out there in competition.
Al Unser Jr. is amazing in about anything. You have to consider the disciplines here. Al Unser Jr., the reigning IndyCar champion. Scott Pruitt is here because of his Trans Am championship last year, but of course is in IndyCars this year. Still, his representation here is as a road racer.
Well, there's something in the Unser genes that makes them good at IROC. Remember that both Al's uncle, Bobby, and his dad, Big Al, won IROC championships as well. So these guys really get after it in this series.
A race for the lead.
Pruitt goes for the lead. Ricky Rudd helps him. Kenny Schrader comes down. That puts Earnhardt up behind Al Unser Jr., but it put Pruitt solidly into the lead, and this may leave Ken Schrader out.
But for all those changes, Benny, it's incredible, isn't it, that we're seeing what we saw last year in race after race. This incredible, intense competition, which just goes on lap after lap. The last 10 races here at Daytona, the biggest margin of victory has been a car length.
And a race for the lead. Ricky Rudd started on the pole. He's trying to get back. Meanwhile, he's side by side with Scott Pruitt. But Rudd needs some drafting help. He doesn't have him.
Now, Pruitt gets a little help from Al Unser Jr. right now. Not just drafting help, but a little assistance for top end. Gets it again.
There was a time, of course, where Pruitt looked like he might never drive again. The terrible IndyCar crash he had back in 1990. He made a recovery, a very brave recovery. One of the first races he did when he came back to racing was an IROC race, and he won right here, 91.
91. He led the final 7 laps to take the win. Now Pruitt with the help from Al Unser Jr. And Jr.'s going to try him. Jr. getting some help from Mark Martin. Earnhardt still very much in this battle, sitting outside Martin, and Gordon up behind Earnhardt.
So that's what we're talking about by spotters. Telling them that Earnhardt is on the outside, but no radios in the IROC car. These fellas have to go it on their own.
Looking forward from Gordon as they come past Martin. Links up with Earnhardt. There's Pruitt just ahead of Earnhardt. And the leader of the race, Al Unser Jr. now, as Pruitt gets caught out of line.
Boy, and look at Earnhardt's car move around. He's got to be doing a lot of steering to keep that thing straight.
And look how close Jeff Gordon is to the outside retaining wall. This is from the back of Dale Earnhardt's car looking back at Jeff Gordon. Now back inside on top of Jeff Gordon's car.
Now, in the past, the scenario has been that the Winston Cup men sort of ganged up, I think, on Al Unser Jr. Now, so far in this race, his attitude seems to have been stay out front as far as I can, stay with the lead group. But, of course, we're not at the end of the race yet, where push really comes to shove.
And folks, you're right. When we have that in-car camera shot, you listen to the accelerator, they are not backing off the throttle. Every once in a while, just breathing the engine a little bit. Listen as they go in the corner, wide open.
A little more help from Earnhardt to Unser as you look back from Junior's car. So it's Al Unser Jr. that now leads Dale Earnhardt in a battle between NASCAR and IndyCar. Between Al Unser Jr. in a battle between IndyCar and NASCAR on top of Jeff Gordon's car.
And Sam Posey said that the 12th starting spot was a good spot. You wouldn't believe it would be true with 12 great race car drivers, but Gordon has worked his way through the field, now looking to take over the lead.
Sam, you were really theorizing this morning on why that 12th spot may in fact help, as now we're watching the guy who started in 12th, Jeff Gordon, actually battling for the lead.
Well, one thing you can do when you're starting back there, you have running room all around you, and you can go to the throttle exactly when you want to. You're not boxed in with other cars. Big advantage because we got this slow start. Jeff Gordon did not get a slow start. He got a start just like he wanted to.
And you saw there as Jeff Gordon reached up and waved for Kenny Schrader and Ricky Rudd to give him some help, and it gave him the lead. Schrader second, Rudd third.
They teamed up. Their teammates with the Rick Hendrick operation, they teamed up to go by Al Unser Jr.
Looking back from Jeff Gordon, here comes Ricky Rudd up to the inside. Al Unser Jr. is there.
That's for the lead. Ricky Rudd back in front.
You know, we occasionally get a glimpse of the white car as well, though he's not up in the front at the moment, but Steve Kinser in the white car very definitely in this battle. We mentioned back at starting that they've done a lot of work on these cars over the winter. And Jack DeRoot, there's a lot of little adjustments that make a really big difference.
It's amazing how much preparation and thought has to go into each and every one of these Avenger cars. Last year at Daytona, guys, these screens were mounted inboard, which left an indentation of about 3/4 of an inch. Drivers reported that the cars tended to push, dart towards the wall with the nose. So what IROC has done is they've outboard mounted these screens, which protect the radiators and the airflow, keeping debris off, and now the cars are neutral or tend to be a little bit loose. And if you want to go fast, you've got to have a loose race car. They've got them this year.
And the drivers seem to like that. They say they handle well. Look at Gordon. He's not going to give him any help at all. And he is going to blow past him.
Remember, Gordon is a rookie. He's never raced an IROC race before. Extraordinary. You see him here in car number 12. He's come from the back. He's leading this thing.
Jeff Gordon, the winner at the inaugural Brickyard 400. You saw it here on ABC, is now out in front after starting in last place. Round one of IROC 19.
And speaking of the success of rookies, remember that Ricky Rudd won IROC. He became the champion back in 1992 in his rookie year.
And least we forget Rusty Wallace won from 12th here in 1989.
That was
you can get up front and stay there.
And I think it's only fitting that the youngest driver ever to start an IROC race, Jeff Gordon, is driving the pink car.
We knew you were going to get around to that sooner or later. Exciting pass for the lead here.
As Ricky Rudd moves down inside of Gordon. Can he hold on? I doubt it.
I doubt it.
But Schrader did not go with Rudd. He chose to stay out with his teammate, Jeff Gordon. Rudd hung to the inside. He's in trouble. And Earnhardt, who was back about 9th just a few laps ago, has worked his way back to 3rd. That Earnhardt is incredible.
And all of this has pushed Junior back in the line. You can see him in single file now, sitting just behind the powder blue car of Rusty Wallace.
Earnhardt bet on Schrader in that last exchange of moves, and he bet right, of course. Schrader led him right where he wanted to be.
Early Haywood comes into the pits. Of course, with no radios, no indication as to what the problem may have been.
Earnhardt has had just another great season, of course, last year. And he now, there's a mystique. It's talk, you walk through the paddock and the pits here at Daytona, people are wearing Intimidator t-shirts. Earnhardt is making millions off merchandising. He knows more about copyrights, I think, than suspension these days. But we know one thing that's not changed as Dale Earnhardt has gotten richer and more famous. He still loves a good fight. I think when it comes down to the last laps of a race like this, that willingness to take on these guys and fight and battle his way into the lead is something that stands him in good stead.
That's what I especially like about Earnhardt as he darts to the inside. It doesn't seem to matter to him what car he's in as he works it way down low. He just wants to race it once he's in it. I don't think the dollars or any of that matters. 7-time Winston Cup champion
Why would dollars make any difference to Dale Earnhardt? Because he makes enough money for 2 or 3 people, but he wants to see that checkered flag. And he has over 20 times here in Daytona, but Jeff Gordon goes right back by Earnhardt.
In the early going of round 1 of the IROC, and stock car drivers occupy 4 positions of the top 5. We'll be right back. Dale Earnhardt, with a little help from Al Unser Jr. and Rusty Wallace, move up to the high side and around Jeff Gordon. He might be able to save 4th, but more than likely he'll drop back in 5th place.
The greatest Winston Cup driver of our time, Dale Earnhardt, you see him there inside his car, leads the greatest IndyCar driver of our time, Al Unser Jr. A terrific battle. We thought it might come down to this, and so far with the race about halfway over, it has.
We're just past the halfway point. There have been 9 lead changes among 4 different drivers at the halfway. Later at the moment, Dale Earnhardt, but Al Unser Jr. now wants to challenge. You see, when he started to move out, he didn't get any help at all from Wallace, who just tucked right in behind.
That's right. He started to go, looked in his mirror. Rusty Wallace said, I'm not going with you, so he ducked back in behind Earnhardt.
Probably looked up in his mirror and saw Kenny just waving at him. How you doing, little Al? I'll stay here. Still the field very tightly bunched. The only car that's not in this bunch is Al Unser Jr. Now with some help from Rusty goes to the lead. And Steve Millen, the rookie.
And that's almost a teammate of his. Al Unser Jr. drives for Roger Penske. Rusty Wallace drives for Roger Penske. That's one reason that Rusty chose to go with Al Jr.
So 10 of the cars are still running all together. Early Haywood's car is still in the pits at a report of losing power, and Steve Millen, who's still going to school on the super speedway, is running well behind this group.
You know, Al Unser Jr. tested Rusty's car just a few weeks ago, not really with any thought of running it, but just to help out a little bit and get the feel of it.
Wallace down to the inside, and Al Unser Jr. trying to pick up help from somebody, and he gets it from Earnhardt.
This is the best seat I've ever had for an IROC race, and trust me, this is exciting. I've always watched it from the infield and really can't see all this action going on.
Benny, it's even tighter than when you ran it, isn't it?
Oh, it is much tighter.
Because the whole pack stays together, the whole field. This is just fabulous racing. Look at that.
And see the yellow car back about 7th spot? That's Tommy Kendall. He hit the wall coming off turn 4 last lap, and he didn't even check up, just kept going.
We can take a look at that. Watch Kendall, the yellow car.
Comes off the corner, goes up, smacks the wall, just keeps going. Didn't even slow him down.
Didn't even seem to phase Gordon behind him either, did it? And look how far Gordon's fallen back just by getting out of the line. You know, anytime you're operating a racing engine, especially in a place like Daytona, heat is a very, very real concern. In today's True Value Mechanics of Racing, Jack Root looks at how they try to manage the heat.
Any racer will tell you that the biggest culprit to deal with in racing and building horsepower is heat. Now, if a temperature inside the engine compartment raises 22 degrees, you can lose 50 horsepower. Inside an engine compartment during the course of a race, especially in the draft, it can get as high as 160 degrees. So IROC mechanics have introduced these flaps here attached to the valve covers to try and contain the heat. They've also brought along their air boxes. These fiberglass boxes are attached over the air cleaner so that when the hood is closed, the outside air flows up over the hood, in through the cowl, directly into the air cleaner and the carburetor. This has reduced the engine compartment heat to only 5 degrees over the outside air temperature. It's a much more efficient way to run an engine and keep them all equal. And that's extremely important when you're trying to have identically prepared cars and have them run in a high-speed draft at Daytona.
The new air boxes, I think, have a little to do with the equal performance here. Look at how Al is getting bounced around, because before, when a car followed another one really closely like this, he would get some overheating and maybe lose a little horsepower. Now they're staying cooler in the engine department and staying right up there with them.
So Al Unser Jr. leads Dale Earnhardt, Mark Martin, and Scott Pruitt. Round number 1 of the IROC. With Al Unser Jr. in front, Dale Earnhardt pursuing, Mark Martin leading Scott Pruitt from 3rd position. We have had green flag all the way. One car out of the race, Early Haywood, and one car, Tom Kendall, trouble brushing the wall, but it didn't even slow him down. So we have had green flag racing all the way here at Daytona International.
Earnhardt is looking. He's trying his best to figure out how to get by Al Unser Jr. Not able to. Mark Martin, meanwhile, sitting back there riding in third place. And here goes Earnhardt on the inside coming off the corner. I don't know if this is a good move or not, Sam.
This is, I think, at Benny's when you got to start trying a few things, but you also got to conserve your car a little bit, too. Look, have the long view. Look ahead to what you've got left at the end. You want to keep those tires cool, keep the car cool.
And Jeff Gordon slowing over on the backside. What the problem is there. The thing that you have to keep track of in front, and the drivers certainly do, is the laps in the lead. Al Unser Jr. is way ahead on lead lap. Mark Martin, currently in second place, found his way to an IROC championship just by being consistent and rolling up those lead laps.
And he's been consistent again today because we haven't heard the name Mark Martin too much, but look, with just a few laps to go, he's in second spot.
He's right there.
And Earnhardt, that move that we said might not work for him, it didn't. He moved back to the 6th position.
Well, when Mark Martin won the IROC championship, he did so with a 4th place, a 1st, a last place, and a 2nd. Interesting that he was able to survive that last place and still eke out a championship win.
The leader is Al Unser Jr. representing IndyCar. Second place, that 7 car of Mark Martin, the dark blue, representing NASCAR. And back in 3rd place, representing road racing, is Scott Pruitt. Earnhardt now moves to the inside. Steve Kinzer attaches to the back of Earnhardt.
Pruitt is giving terrific account of himself. He will be debuting the Firestone tire in IndyCar competition this year. He's been doing a lot of testing, very active. He's Trans Am champion.
And look at Earnhardt fly by those cars on the bottom of the racetrack. If he can just get Steve Kinzer right on his back bumper, they might be able to go someplace down the straightaway. Not able to draft those guys going by, but Earnhardt sneaks back up to the outside once again.
Well, Earnhardt has run high, and he's run low, and he's run in the middle. Benny, it makes me think that, you know, he's preparing himself for what's going to come in that last lap. He wants to be comfortable everywhere on the track.
It also speaks to what Jack Arute mentioned at the start of the show of how much more raceable these cars seem to be. They've really worked on the Dodge Avenger.
This is a titanic struggle among very, very talented and aggressive people. It's terrific racing.
And I think that's the key, Sam. They are very, very talented. Each and every one of these guys has a pass for the lead.
As Earnhardt down on the inside, and he just blows by Al Unser Jr. and almost does it alone. So the lead continues to change hands here in IROC Round 1 at Daytona. It's Dale Earnhardt out in front of Al Unser Jr. right now. Schrader got trapped up against the wall, running alongside Pruitt. A few seconds ago, he was up there. I don't think Pruitt had any idea he was there, and he brushed the wall. But once again, we've seen these Avengers touch the wall, not even slow the car down. Let's go back and take a look at that brush with the wall.
Pruitt and Schrader, and look how close these guys are, and Rusty Wallace backed up in that pale blue car.
Well, Al Unser Jr. has already clinched 5 bonus points for leading the most laps in this race. Question now is, when do you make your move? We put that question to the IROC drivers.
When do you make your move? You make your move right away. You just go ahead and strike in position and get the thing in position, then right there at the very end of the race, you just got to drive defensively.
Anytime you get an opportunity to go to the front, you do it.
A lot of it just comes right down to plain outright luck that you end up at the front of the pack at the right time. You've been to the front, you've been to the back. You just certainly hope that the checker flag falls when you're on that good cycle, when you're at the front of the pack.
I've seen some funky stuff happen in the last couple laps of that race, so I kind of got to get things figured out here.
I really don't believe you're going to want to be out front on the very last lap. I think you're going to get shuffled back. Either you got to do some heavy-duty blocking, or you got to be running second or third to make your move.
The cars draft so well and they're so close. Got to have some help, or if you do have help and the time's there, you know, the opportunity opens up, you just take it.
I equate it to musical chairs. When the music stops, you hope you got a chair that's at the front because it shuffles so much every lap.
A lot said there, and not much of it the truth. Maybe Kendall said it best. Now Al Unser Jr. moves around Earnhardt, And Unser Jr. comes back into the lead, but Earnhardt still sits high, and he's not going to give it up, but he drifts very, very close to that wall. Unser Jr. representing IndyCars back at the front of this IROC field in round one. The battle at the front has closed up again. Al Unser Jr. has top spot now. There you look back from Little Al's car to Earnhardt just behind him.
You know, Junior has not tried as many different variations as Dale Earnhardt has. He's kind of clung to the lead in a fairly simple line, I mean a direct line. Earnhardt's been all over the place. He's been back in the middle of the pack. He's been high, he's been low. He's tried that real low move. Al Unser's just sort of hung on near the front. It'll be really interesting to see what happens as they come down to the last lap, which is coming up very soon.
Ooh, Earnhardt touches the back of Unser's car going in turn 3. That's just to let him know, hey, I'm back here, Al. Don't forget, I'm back here.
Just did send Al Unser Jr. for a little bit of a ride. Pushed him up high and then back down.
Just look at that fence fly by on the left. I mean, these guys are moving 185 miles an hour, maybe a little more in the draft. This is fast.
So at the front right now is Al Unser Jr. being chased by Dale Earnhardt. The final laps are coming up. Round one of the IROC, Al Unser Jr. in front, the defending Indy 500 champion, the defending PPG Cup IndyCar champ. 3 times IndyCar drivers have won the IROC at Daytona. Bobby Unser in 75, Big Al in 86, and Scott Pruitt back in 91.
So only Al Unser Jr. of the real racing Unsers has failed to win here. I'm sure that might be going through his mind.
Now to the waiting game. Who
Now,
makes their move and where?
But look at that. That's the biggest gap we've seen between first and second. Is it a ploy?
I think it is.
Yeah.
I think Earnhardt's trying to get a run. He's lulling Unser into thinking that he's got something, and he's trying to get a run on him down the back.
Whoa! Close right here. He gets some drafting help, and he just blows by Al Unser Jr. So, Benny, you were exactly right. He was just trying to get a run on him.
He picked up a push from Mark Martin, and it made it work. That's knowledge. That's really subtle thinking by Dale Earnhardt.
See, he's always figuring, how can I win this thing? Not how can I finish first or second. How can I win this thing?
So Earnhardt back at the top to look from Al Unser Jr. At these cars, which seem to handle either in the draft, out of the draft, they're just handling everywhere.
These cars are all over the racetrack and handling awfully well.
We've seen a lot of good IROC races, but very few with the significance of this, with the IndyCar champion battling the NASCAR champion for the lead.
When Earnhardt moved to the front, that was the 14th lead change in this 100-mile race. Unser Jr. tucked in. As we come to the final lap, did Earnhardt make his move a little too early? Can he hold off Unser Jr.? And what will Mark Martin do? Will he help little Al?
I think that's the key. What will Mark Martin do? He'll help Al Jr. if it helps himself.
2.5 miles to go. Scott Pruitt sits in 4th. He could influence this finish as well.
Al Jr. on the inside. Did he make his move too soon?
Keep your eye on Mark Martin in that blue car, because I think what he does next may be the key.
Might have been a little soon. Let's see. Mark Martin closes in on Earnhardt. Here comes Scott Pruitt, has no choice. He sits up behind Martin. Down the back straightaway for the final time. Al Unser Jr. comes low.
They're halfway around the lap right now.
Oh! Al Unser Jr. catches the wall. Earnhardt goes into the lead.
Some contact as Earnhardt was trying to go by Unser on the outside. Meanwhile, here they come Scott Pruitt trying to take the lead.
Yellow and checker comes out together as they cross the line with Earnhardt holding off Al Unser Jr. with his accident and Scott Pruitt in second place. Unser Jr. climbs out unhurt. He had the lead going down the back straightaway and then bumped off the right into the wall.
And he does not look happy. He, of course, Al Unser Jr. has had some great run-ins on last laps. You think back to the confrontation with Fittipaldi at Indy. Al wound up in the wall on that one, too.
Well, and we mentioned that both Earnhardt and Al Unser Jr. are drivers that give no quarter.
There we see Earnhardt trying to go by on the outside. Unser trying to block that move, and Earnhardt gets in the right side, turns him in the wall, and almost flipped him over.
In fact, when the back end was rolling up over the car, you see the other cars now getting involved in that. I was worried for a second there he might be climbing that wall.
And Hurley Haywood just barely gets by
This is a look from Earnhardt's car. We'll get a real feel for this now. Watch for whether Al pinches Earnhardt or Earnhardt levers Al. Al pinches Earnhardt would be my call on that. What do you think?
I don't know. It looked like the speed of closure on Earnhardt was just such that he came up and caught little Al's right rear. Maybe a little faster than he expected.
I think Earnhardt did not turn out into Al.
I think that's right. I think he just simply caught him at a faster rate of speed. Here's from Unser's car.
Boy, oh boy. Rolled right over the front end of Dale Earnhardt's car.
Oh, this is at 185 miles an hour, please remember.
Do not try this at home, ladies and gentlemen.
So round number 1 of the 19th International Race of Champions goes to Dale Earnhardt with this confrontation on the last lap, which throws the back end of Al Unser Jr.'s car into the air and gives you a nice, clear roadway for Dale Earnhardt to sail on to the checkered flag with Scott Pruitt in tow.
I made the point that Earnhardt likes to fight it out, and he sure did this time.
We'll be back to talk with the contenders right after this. Back at Daytona,
well, it was one of those racing things, you know. I saw the white flag, and I went down into one, and I got the lead, and I got a little bit too far out in front, and I knew the train would be coming. So I was going down the back stretch trying to guess which way they were going to go, if they were going to pass me on the inside or the low side, and just try to get the car directly in front of them so that they hit me square. And, you know, he faked low and went high, and by the time I got mine up high, he hit my, my corner, my right rear corner, and that spun me this direction, and that was it. You know, I just... it was a classic case of the same thing last year, except I was second, and Dale blocked me, and I lifted last year, and this year I was going to block Dale, and the only difference was that he didn't lift.
So much emotion inside a race car, and especially when... Did you think about last year at all before it happened? You know, you guys have had it back and forth, and, you know, you've got a pretty good file up there.
Yeah, no, you know, I didn't want to be second going down the back straightaway like I was last year, and you know, I knew Dale would block me something fierce, and I wanted to be in front, and so I made my move going into one, and I got a little bit, you know, I went ahead and ran it all the way flat through there, and I tried to get away from him enough, but then when I come off of 2, I saw that I wasn't away from him enough, and so then I was going to have to do the blocking now, and I tried, and they just said that they didn't lift or nothing, you know, they just run me over. So.
I love that quote. Al Unser Jr. expected him to lift. But don't forget, ABC Sports will have coverage of the run in round 2 at Darlington on June 11th, right here on ABC Sports. I'm Paul Page for Benny Parsons, Sam Posey, and Jack Arute. So long from Daytona.